Tonight, we're diving into a tale of forbidden exploration and chilling encounters. It all unfolds at a local lake shrouded in mystery, a place known only as the Screaming Lake. Our story comes from two friends who stumbled upon something terrifying on a forbidden night. The air hung heavy that summer evening, thick with the scent of honeysuckle and the promise of adventure. It was around 8:30 when our protagonists, Mark and Alex, were winding down after a long day. Suddenly, Mark, ever the restless one, had an idea. "Hey Alex, up for a little night exploration?" Alex, ever the slightly skeptical friend, raised an eyebrow. "Exploration? Sounds intriguing. What are we exploring?" Mark, with a mischievous grin, revealed his plan. "There's this hidden lake everyone's been buzzing about. Apparently, it's breathtaking, but closed off at night. Think you're up for a little adventure?" A flicker of excitement danced in Alex's eyes. He knew the risks, but the allure of the unknown was too strong to resist. "Closed off at night? Huh? Sounds like just the kind of adventure I need. Lead the way, my friend." With a thirst for exploration and a dash of rebellious spirit, our two friends embarked on a nocturnal journey. Armed with their trusty Duke motorcycle and a healthy dose of curiosity, they set off in search of this hidden lake. The path leading to the lake was a forgotten one, choked with vegetation and barely visible in the moonlight. Navigating it required some skillful maneuvering on the motorcycle, dodging low-hanging branches and loose gravel. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they reached a makeshift barricade blocking the way. The motorcycle sputtered in protest as they approached the barrier. Would this be the end of their journey? The barricade looked rickety, a flimsy attempt to deter curious souls. With a determined glint in his eye, Alex dismounted the motorcycle. "Looks like a dead end," he muttered, pushing at the flimsy barrier. But Alex wasn't one to give up easily. He pushed and pulled, finally managing to create an opening just large enough for the motorcycle to squeeze through. The path beyond wasn't much smoother. Loose rocks and uneven terrain threatened to throw them off balance, but they pressed on, the anticipation building with each bump and jolt. Then, after what felt like miles of navigating the treacherous path, they emerged into a clearing. And there it was, the Screaming Lake. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the water's surface. It shimmered like a giant, silver coin, reflecting the moonlight with an almost unnatural vibrancy. The beauty of the scene was undeniable, yet a strange unease settled in Alex's gut. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the chirping of crickets in the distance. It felt unnatural, as if the world itself was holding its breath. They parked the motorcycle on the edge of the clearing and sat down on a large, smooth rock. Alex pulled out his phone and played some music, the soft melody struggling to fill the vast emptiness that surrounded them. For a few blissful moments, they simply sat there, letting the beauty of the lake wash over them. The tension seemed to ease, replaced by a sense of serenity. But the peace wouldn't last. A sound pierced the night, a blood-curdling scream. It ripped through the stillness, sending shivers down Alex's spine. He jumped in surprise, his phone clattering to the ground. The music stopped abruptly, leaving only the echoing scream hanging in the air. His heart hammered in his chest. Was it a prank? A recording on someone's phone? He glanced around frantically, searching for the source of the sound. The scream came again, louder this time, closer. A primal fear gripped him. This wasn't a human scream. It was filled with raw despair, like a soul in agony. He scrambled to his feet, his gaze darting around the clearing. The beauty of the lake had vanished, replaced by a chilling emptiness. The silence between screams was even more terrifying than the sounds themselves. The second scream echoed through the clearing, closer, more desperate than before. Panic surged through Alex. This wasn't a prank, this was real, and whatever was making those sounds was getting closer. His eyes darted towards the motorcycle, the only means of escape. He lunged for it, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His hands trembled as he fumbled with the keys, finally unlocking the ignition. Behind him, the clearing erupted with another scream. It was deafeningly close now, filled with such raw terror that it sent chills down his spine and froze him momentarily. "Come on, come on," he growled at the engine, willing it to turn over. The engine sputtered and coughed, then finally roared to life. Relief flooded him, albeit temporary. He glanced back at the clearing for a fleeting second. He saw nothing, but the sense of unseen danger was palpable. He didn't wait any longer. "Get on," he yelled, his voice hoarse with fear. He didn't need to identify the "you." It was clearly directed at someone else, anyone who might be able to hear him. Moments later, a figure emerged from the darkness, collapsing onto the back of the motorcycle. Alex recognized it as Mark, his face pale with terror, mirroring his own. They didn't waste another second. With a twist of the throttle, Alex launched the motorcycle forward, the gravel crunching under the tires. He pushed the engine to its limits, ignoring the bumps and dips in the path. They didn't speak. Words were useless. The only sound that filled the air was the roar of the engine and the chilling echoes of the screams that seemed to be chasing them. They raced through the night, the headlights cutting through the darkness like a desperate plea for escape. The path they had navigated so cautiously earlier now became a blur as they hurtled blindly forward. Neither of them dared to look back. The memory of the screams and the unseen horror they seemed to warn of were enough to keep them focused on one thing only: getting away. The path stretched before them, a ribbon of pale moonlight cutting through the dense foliage. Alex pushed the motorcycle harder, the engine screaming in protest. Every bump in the road threatened to send them flying, but they clung on, fear fueling their escape. Behind them, the screams continued. They seemed to come in waves, growing fainter as they distanced themselves, yet still carrying the chilling echo of despair. Each scream was a reminder of the unseen horror they were fleeing. "Where are you going?" Mark yelled over the roar of the engine, his voice tight with terror. "Main road. We need to get out of here," Alex shouted back, never taking his eyes off the path ahead. The moon, their only source of light, cast long, eerie shadows that danced across the trees. Their imaginations conjured terrifying shapes in every shadow, fueling their desperate need to escape. "Slow down. It's too dangerous." "There's no choice," Alex roared back, clinging to the handlebars with white knuckles. The risk of a crash was outweighed by the terror of what lurked behind them. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Their lungs burned. Their bodies ached from the strain of exertion and fear. The screams, though fainter now, still echoed in their ears, a constant reminder of the nightmare they were escaping. Just as exhaustion threatened to overwhelm them, the trees began to thin, and a sliver of light appeared in the distance. Hope surged through Alex's veins. It was the main road, their gateway to safety. With a final burst of speed, Alex urged the motorcycle forward. They burst out of the darkness and onto the paved road, the familiar sight of asphalt a welcome change from the treacherous path. Without slowing down, they sped away, the screaming lake and its horrors disappearing behind them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a deserted stretch of road miles away from the lake. Alex pulled the motorcycle to a stop, his legs shaking so violently he could barely dismount. They leaned against the motorcycle, gasping for breath, their bodies trembling with the aftershocks of terror. Neither spoke. The screams may have stopped, but the chilling memory of the encounter hung heavy in the air. This frantic escape marked the end of their ill-fated adventure. Exhausted and shaken, Alex and Mark leaned against the motorcycle, the silence around them a stark contrast to the chilling screams that had echoed just moments ago. Neither dared to speak, the weight of the experience pressing down on them like a suffocating fog. Finally, Alex broke the silence, his voice barely a whisper. Did you see anything?" Mark looked at him, his eyes wide with terror. "See anything?" "What do you mean?" Alex hesitated, unsure how to articulate the horrifying image that had flashed before his eyes. "Just before we got onto the main road, I swear I saw something. A figure." Mark's breath hitched. "A figure? What kind of figure?" Taking a deep breath, Alex recounted the terrifying glimpse he had caught. It was human-shaped, but not human. It was completely white, bathed in the moonlight. It was running towards us, but not like a person runs. It moved unnaturally. A cold shiver ran down Greg's spine, even as he narrated. The image Alex described was horrifying, a creature beyond human comprehension. You must be mistaken. It was probably just the trees, the shadows playing tricks on your mind." But the conviction in Alex's voice left no room for doubt. He had seen something terrifying and unexplainable. "No, Mark, I know what I saw. It was real." The silence descended upon them once more, heavier now with the weight of the unseen horror. They had not only heard the screams, but Alex had glimpsed the source, a terrifying, unnatural creature guarding the secrets of the screaming lake. The encounter left them deeply shaken. They knew they couldn't stay there any longer. With a final glance back at the dark stretch of road where the lake presumably lay hidden, they mounted the motorcycle and rode away, the memory of the white figure forever etched in their minds. The ride back home was a blur. Neither Alex nor Mark spoke a word. The image of the white figure and the chilling screams echoed in their minds, a constant reminder of the nightmare they had just experienced. Finally, they reached Alex's place, the sight of their familiar surroundings offering a small measure of comfort. But sleep wouldn't come. They tossed and turned, haunted by the events at the screaming lake. The next morning, the weight of the experience still pressed upon them. Needing an outlet, Alex decided to share their story with a friend, hoping to find some explanation. They called up their local friend who knew the city well. As they recounted their terrifying encounter, their friend listened intently, his face becoming increasingly pale with each detail. "Wait, you're talking about the lake near Elkhart Park? The one that's closed off?" Alex and Mark exchanged a surprised glance. "Yeah, there's one close to Elkhart Park. Do you know it?" Their friend's voice was barely a whisper. "Bro, that's the infamous suicide lake. The government banned entry to the lake because..." The friend paused, his voice thick with emotion. Alex and Mark held their breath, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. "Because hundreds of people have died there." A wave of nausea washed over Alex. The friend continued, his voice low and solemn. "There have been reports of strange occurrences at the lake for years. Screams in the night, figures seen lurking in the shadows. Some say it's haunted by the restless spirits of those who took their own lives there." The pieces started to fall into place. The chilling screams, the sense of unease, the white figure Alex had seen. It all made a horrifying kind of sense. "So, what we saw, what we heard." The friend let out a heavy sigh. "There's no way to know for sure, but it sounds like you might have encountered some kind of paranormal activity, something tied to the tragedy of the lake." The revelation sent shivers down Greg's spine, even as he narrated. Alex and Mark's night of exploration had turned into a terrifying encounter with the unknown, a stark reminder of the darkness that can sometimes lurk beneath the surface of seemingly peaceful places. The screaming lake remained shrouded in mystery, a place forever tainted by tragedy and the whispers of the restless dead. And for Alex and Mark, the memory of that night would forever be etched in their minds, a chilling reminder of the night they ventured into the darkness and encountered the horror that resided there.